Hello, everybody. Another day, another memories, memories divulged. um, I thought I'd talk a little bit about my mom today and other things. But my mom used to do a lot of stuff, so um, I can tell you that she was a stay-at-home mom, and most of the mothers back then were stay-at-home moms. Very few worked. Um, so, and I told you our school was right down the street, so we, most of the time, came home for lunch. And she used to fix us Lipton soup, which was the dry soup with the little noodles in it. And it was so good with a sandwich. Most of the time, and she fixed us different things, but I remember the soup because it was so good. And you can still get it, and I never buy it. I'm sure it doesn't have healthy stuff in it, but uh, it's a memory. And I remember that a lot of times she'd have the TV on. Not that she sat there and watched the TV, but she'd have it on. And um, there was a show called Queen for the Day, and she used to watch that. And the women would win prizes on there. And I was one of those, I'm sure she kind of wished she could be there to win some of the cool prizes because you'd get new washing machines and dryers and kitchen things and all sorts of good household mom stuff. But we like coming home was cool. We only lived a half a block from the school, so we could do that quickly and come home and go back. But us well, at least me, I don't know how my brother and sister felt, but I always wanted to eat lunch at school because it smelled so good. Back in the day, they used to actually cook food in the kitchen. There was a kitchen at the school, and they had several cooks in there, and they would actually cook the meals. So you'd have these good meals, and not a bunch of junk. Some days I think we might have had pizza. I don't remember ever having pizza. Well, I didn't eat there. I mean, mostly we had to go home. Sometimes my mom would make our lunch. We could take it to school. Very seldom did we get to buy lunch at school. But when we did, I always loved it. I always thought cafeteria food was awesome. I don't remember what I did in junior high and high school, but that's my elementary school, was the cool lunches. So it wasn't a big treat for us to come home. But my mom was always there and always making lunch. Let me tell you, when I was a kid, my mother wore skirts most of the time. I guess most of the women did. I don't think they wore a lot of pants back then, and she wore skirts. And I remember this one time. It's the story I like to tell. That'll embarrass my brother, but that's okay. That's what brothers are for. But my brother used to like to throw fits, and so my mom was fixing dinner, and my brother was standing. I don't know how old he was. He had to have been little. He used to suck on his two fingers, and he was holding on to my mom's skirt and sucking on his two fingers, and she would turn around to go to this. We had a narrow kitchen. It was what they called a step saver kitchen, and so she would turn around from the stove to do something on the other counter or at the sink or whatever, and he was always underfoot, so she yanked her skirt out of his hand. My brother got mad and decided to throw a fit, and he threw himself onto the floor, and he's banging his hands and his feet and his head and everything else, throwing this fit. And my mother's just totally ignoring him, right? She's just continues to do her thing. And while he was doing all that, my dad came home. So my dad comes in the front door and stands at the kitchen door, and he's watching my brother throw this fit on the ground. And during one of his fit throwing things, he looked back and he noticed my dad in the doorway, and he just shut up immediately, stood back up, grabbed hold of my mom's skirt, and stuck his fingers back in his mouth like nothing had happened. Nothing to see here, Dad. We all cracked up. I don't know that we cracked up at the time, but I crack up every time I tell the story because It's funny because he was he was not our favorite person back when I was a kid because he was so obnoxious. Like he used to do, he had a secret cave. We still don't know how he had. I think he used to go up in the attic in the closet in that bedroom, but how he did that quickly, I don't know, because he would go in the closet. He'd say he's going to go in his secret cave, and he'd go in the closet, and you'd open the door, and he wouldn't be there. And there was a deal to get up in the attic, but there was no steps going up there or anything. He would have had to have hoisted himself up, open it up, climb up in there, close it back up before we opened the door. And we opened the door fairly quickly, in my opinion, but at any rate, he one time tied a string to our light in that, and when we had that room, tied a string to our lights were in the center of the rooms. He tied a string and put it into his room, and then loosened the light bulb. So when we were in there and we had turned the light on, he could pull that string and make the light flicker. And we didn't notice the string right off, so you kind of get scared. He one time hung a head. He had made a head out of probably a bag. I don't know. He drew a face and everything, and hung it outside of our window like somebody was looking in there. He used to do these things. But anyway, so my mother generally was dressed, in a skirt and always looked nice. She was a little heavy, managed to keep her weight okay, but not like me. She never got out of control, but she died when she was, I think, 50 of the flu in December. And I remember that Jeff was a baby, 2 years old, and we decided to go for a bike ride. So I stuck him in I had a seat attached to the back of the bike, and I stuck him in there, and we lived not close to my mom at that time. We lived out on Pleasant Avenue, and it was quite a bike ride to go from there to the Tower District. But for some reason, I decided I wanted to go to the Tower District, so I pedaled over to the Tower District, and we did whatever we went there to do. And then on the way home, I stopped by my mom's to see her and was hoping I could talk her into loading up my bike and giving us a ride home, because I was tired, and I thought, I'll just see if she wants to do that. But she was sick, and I didn't realize that she had been sick. She had had the flu. And so we stopped to visit, and she just said she was getting better, but her chest hurt really bad from the coughing, because she had just been coughing and coughing and coughing. And it was finally getting better, but she just couldn't seem to kick this flu. I think it was the Hong Kong flu, but I could be wrong about that. My sister will know. She remembers everything way better than me. But anyway, so we visited for a while, and then decided to let her rest. So Jeff and I loaded up and went home, and she passed that night, in the middle of the night. So I was glad that we had stopped to see her. Thank God for that. It was cool that I got to see her before. Anyway, my mom was very involved in the school. I think she probably was PTA member, Parent Teacher Association member. I can't remember, but I know she was very involved in the school. And when the school had school carnival, our school was an old building. The original building was an old building. It smelled cool because it was old. And then when, as the population grew, they added on a couple of wings for, I believe it was 5th and 6th grade. Mr. Eade and Mr. Ebersol were the 5th and 6th grade teachers. Funny how you remember some things. Of course, we all crushed on Mr. Eade. He was very handsome. And then the the other classes though were in this building, and it had a big wide hall, very wide hall. So and then the classrooms were off of this hall. And I remember it well because one year, for some reason, they wanted me to deliver messages to the teachers. And I don't know what that was or anything, I can't remember that. But it was in December because I was wearing bells on my shoes. I used to wear bells on my shoes all the time in December. Did that clear up to adulthood. I haven't done it lately because I don't ever go anywhere, but I always wore bells. And so I was wearing bells, and they asked me to deliver these messages. And so I can remember walking down that very wide hall, and it had linoleum like that you roll out in huge sheets, and it was just flat. There was no decoration. It was just flat and a very dark color. But when you walked on it, your heels always clicked. And I remember walking down there and my jingle bells jingling and my heels clicking, and it was just it just nobody was in the halls. It was so it echoed, it was just cool. And went and delivered, but that's how I recall that area so well, is because of that time. It just was a cool time for me. But when we had our school carnivals, they used to have a lot of them inside that part of the school in the classrooms. And my mother was involved, so she helped decide what we should do to raise money. And so one of the things they did was had a fishing, was it any kind of contest, or you could go fish. It was probably called Go Fish, who knows. And so they strung a line and hung blankets or something on it to make a wall. And then the teachers, or whoever was helping, the parents, the teachers, stood behind the blankets, and they made fishing poles with a stick and a string and a clothespin at the end of the string. And then when a kid would come up, they would give them a pole, and they'd put their string over this blanket curtain, and the person behind there would clip a prize to it. And so they'd have a person standing by the curtain, telling the person whether it was a boy or a girl, so that they'd get the right kind of gift. And they were funky little things, but we loved them. And so my mother was very involved in that one. And another one that they did that I can remember is silhouettes. And I'm pretty sure this one was my mother's idea, because my mother liked to do art. And in fact, I have one of her pictures she painted here that needs to stay in the family, that's hanging up on my wall, and it's an orchard with a barn, and my mother painted that, so make sure that stays in the family. But anyway, so you would go sit in a chair, and they had a bright light that would shine, so you'd sit sideways, silhouette, and the light would shine and then make a shadow on a piece of paper that they had set up behind you. And then my mother would take chalk and draw around the silhouette. You had to sit really still, and she'd draw around the silhouette, and then you would take the silhouette and cut it out and glue it to a the silhouette would be white, and then you'd glue it to a black background so it stood out, and they were really cool. And I actually came across one or two one time in the last, after I was an adult, and I don't know, I'm imagining they're still here, probably in my cedar chest, of us kids, at least of me, when we had our silhouettes done. So that was a fun thing that we did, and we did that. She did that more than 1 year, so I'm pretty sure that That was one of her things that she came up with to do this. Um, I thought there was something else we used to do in school that she was involved in, but if it is, I'll come back to it. Okay, so I can remember that we were at, and I thought we were at Bass Lake. My brother thought we were at Crater Lake, but my sister, who was older, she's 2 years older than me, so she remembers things. So she said, no, it was at Kaiser's Pass. My mom decided she wanted this baby chipmunk that was hanging around our campsite, or our whatever, if we was camping or not, I don't know. But she wanted this little chipmunk, and so we all stood in a circle and actually captured this little chipmunk. Wouldn't do that today, but back in the day, I don't know, we used to capture. We had animals all over the place. And so he didn't bite or anything. My mother grabbed him when he tried to run past her, and I don't know how we even got him home. But my dad made this really cool cage that actually went in the corner. We put him in the laundry room, which was our back porch, which was, part of the house. But the cage went in the corner, and he put a manzanita limb in there, and the whole front of the cage could open up. But I think there was also a small door. We named him Squeaky, and he became a very, very good pet, and you could take him out, and he'd take food from you, and he liked his home. He had a very good home there. But that was my mother's little pet that she wanted, and so I'm sure Squeaky ended up dying of old age because he was very pampered and very loved and very happy. He was a happy little guy. The My mother used to make almost all of our clothes. She sewed all the time, and she also made our doll clothes. Now my sister and I had we had lots of dolls, and we had baby dolls, and we had lots of dolls. But our favorite dolls were the Jenny Lee dolls. My sister didn't play with dolls as much as I did. She was more tomboy. She'd go out and play ball and stuff. But I remember the Jenny dolls, and our favorite was the Terry Lee doll. And the Terry Lees were very popular and a little more expensive dolls. So, we were very careful how we played with the Terry Lee dolls. But the Jenny dolls would fit in a small suitcase. So I don't know if they came with these small or you bought them as accessories, but they'd fit in a small suitcase, and you could put their clothes and everything in there. So they were little dolls, probably, I don't know, 6 inches, 8 inches tall or something. They weren't baby dolls. They were like little toddler dolls, little girl dolls. And we used to take them to school. I did. I don't know if my sister did. But to take them to school all the time. And they let us do that. So we'd play dolls during recess and lunchtime. Play with our Jenny dolls. The Terry Lee dolls had, their hair was like a wig, and it was glued to the head. These were hard plastic dolls, real hard plastic. And so the Terry Lee had hair wig glued to its head, and you brush the hair and everything. Well, pretty soon it would get all ratty. And we had a doll hospital in Fresno, which was cool, in one of the old neighborhoods by Fresno High School, a really old neighborhood, and they would repair dolls. And so my mother took our Jenny Lee dolls in there and had their wigs replaced and had their rubber bands. They were held together by rubber bands. They were jointed, and what kept everything held together was a big, thick rubber band, and those rubber bands would get old. I still have my Terry Lee doll, but she does not have a rubber band. And Bobo, our dog, chewed on her toes, so she's defective. She could use a new wig, but I still do have her. She's in the cedar chest. The Terry Lee, the Jenny dolls I will tell you, my favorite brother decided he did not want them. We changed bedrooms. He got the big bedroom and we got the small one because we got a pool table and it went in his room. So my sister and I got, but we left our box of dolls and stuff in the closet in his room. And I don't know if we were clean. I don't know what we were doing, but he had told us he did not want them there, and we didn't take them out or something. I don't remember exactly what happened. All I know is that one day my brother took that box of dolls out to a field and put them in this field and left them there because he didn't want them in there anymore. And my sister and I threw an absolute screaming fit because we were going to keep these for our kids, you know. And so we sent him back, and he went back to get them, and they were gone already. So we lost all of those dolls, all of the the handmade dresses that my mother had made for them. I mean, they had tons of little outfits that she had made for them. And I'm thinking there were other dolls in there too. There was a lot of stuff in that box, but he threw them away. So you wonder why we weren't real pleased with my brother. That was when we were older. That was, he was driving, so who needs the dolls anyway? And that's what he figured. You don't need dolls. Okay, another thing, and I thought I touched on this in previous videos, but I went to listen because I can't remember what I already talked about. I don't think I heard anything about it. So one of the things we used to do when we were kids was have block parties. And when we were young teenagers, we were way into like Elvis and the boys' ducktails and the jeans, rolled up jeans, and guitars, the music. We were way into the music. So we would have block parties, and my mother would set a table out in front of the garage and make us popcorn, buttered popcorn, and punch, and put it all out on the table so that the kids who all showed up would have treats to eat. And so we'd put the record player out there and play music loud and eat popcorn and maybe sometimes dance, but generally we probably all stood around and looked silly, but it was great fun. We used to do that quite often in the summertime evening when it cooled down a little bit, because it gets hot in the summertime in Fresno. But that my mother always made sure that we had these special things. My mother would take us shopping, and when we went shopping, we almost always went downtown. In our young years, we went downtown Fresno, and this was before there was a mall or anything, and they had stores like Newberry's, and I don't remember the name of the other one, but in Newberry's or this other store that was like Newberry's, they had a lunch counter, and I remember Mom taking us into the lunch counter. We would shop around, and you had to get dressed up. You wore your really good clothes to go down shopping, and she would take us into Newberry's so that we could have lunch while we were out shopping. It was one of the favorite things about going, and I can remember always wanting the tuna salad sandwich. That was what I always got there, and then generally we'd get to have a chocolate milkshake. It was really good, but she used to always take us shopping like that. Well, when we were older, and I'm thinking it was probably right before my sister started driving or right after she started driving, when she was 16. So that would have made me 13 or 14. I'm thinking we could have been a little older, but they finally turned Fulton into a mall where they filled in the streets, so you couldn't drive there anymore. But before they did that, that was the drag. When the kids dragged the main, that was the main that they dragged. And we at some point in time they put the mall there so you couldn't do it anymore. And I don't remember really going down and dragging Maine with my sister much. So maybe we did. Well, at any rate, we had gone shopping with my mother, and it was nighttime before we got finished and ready to come home. And so, and you could park right on the street. So you'd just park, right on the street. So when we were done, and she finally gets out of the parking space to go, we're on the main, and you go slow because it's full. So as we're driving down the main, cars would honk at us because it looks like three girls, and they would honk at us, and so my sister and I are all excited because we're on the main, right? And we're looking, and it was funny because a car full of guys would pull up next to us, and they'd lean over to see who all was in the car to see if they wanted to talk to us, and they'd see my mom, and they'd go, just drive on, drive away. That was scary. You're going to talk to my mom. But as we drove along, we said, well, Mom, they're honking. You got to honk back. So my mom starts honking the horn. And I mean, she just, she goes from doing nothing to honking the horn. She's just honking and honking and honking till pretty soon the horn came off, and the cover on the horn came off in her hand. So she couldn't honk anymore. She's got the horn in her hand. We laughed so hard I thought she wouldn't be able to see the road. I mean, it was so funny. But that's the kind of lady my mom was. She was so cool. She just went, oh, okay. Honk, honk. My mom also used to make sure that, we did things as kids. And so one of the things she did was sign us up, my sister and I don't think my brother ever did that. I don't know what she had him doing, but my sister and I, she signed up to take dance lessons. And it was in a little funky little park that was kind of near our house that had a building there for some reason. There was a building and a little play area. And so I don't know what this place was put there for, but it was a pretty cool place. And the building was big enough to it had a nice wooden floor and you could dance there. She taught tap and ballet and square dancing and stuff like that. And so my mother signed us up. I have no idea. I always thought it was something the lady did for free, but I don't know that that's true. She was an older lady. To me, very old, because I was little. So, I'm thinking like she's in her 80s or something. I have no idea how old this woman really was, but she was pretty old, and she had these really cool tap shoes they were high heel, higher heel, and sounded, and her taps on them were kind of loose, so they had that really cool tap sound. And she would teach us tap routines and ballet routines. I don't think so much toe, but ballet, because I remember owning ballet shoes and tap shoes. And she would put on recitals. So my mother would make our costumes that we would wear when we'd put on these recitals. And so I think we put the recitals on at the big park, Roding Park. But I could be very wrong about that. I don't know where we put on those recitals. But anyway, she would have us come out there. All of her students would perform what she had taught us. And that was fun. Scary, but fun. But we always had these really cool costumes that my mother would make us, so that when we were done with our dance lessons, we would have these costumes we could wear around. Another thing that we did, I told you before, was play a dress up. And my mom had a couple of really old dresses. They were so gorgeous. I think back and I think, oh my gosh, if we'd have just kept those nice, they'd probably be worth money today. But this one was the favorite one, was kind of a purpley color, not dark, a lilac, pretty color, and it was lace over the dress, very heavy, beautiful. I have a picture. My sister posted some pictures on Facebook, and I saved them. But like I said, I have not learned how to install pictures yet. But when I do, we'll do a recap, and I'll show you. But because we have a picture of me in this dress, and then she had two mink stoles. One of them was dark, and this other one was this beautiful fluffy. That was our favorite one. So, you had to take turns because otherwise we'd fight over them. But this beautiful stole, first stole that was so soft and cuddly, and the pictures with the stole and this really pretty dress. And then my brother had on my dad's uniform jacket. He is just a little guy, so the jacket went to the floor almost, but he had it on in this picture. So he'd get in that every once in a while and play dress up in that. But my mother kept all these dress up clothes for us, so that, and when friends would come over and stuff, we'd go play dress up. I'm pretty sure they were kept in the hall closet, but I'm not positive. We had these great big drawers in the hallway, and games and stuff were kept in there, and I'm pretty sure the bottom drawer was our dress up clothes, but I could be wrong about that. But on the top of in this hall cupboard that was there was an actual cupboard that opened. It had 2 or 3 shelves. That's where they would hide our Christmas gifts. When after they wrap them, they before Santa came, they'd stick them in this closet. And one day we discovered them in there and had to look and see whose was whose, and why we got in all kind of trouble for snooping. But that's where they kept the Christmas presents. And back to the dance lessons, this lady who taught us dance, after we'd finish our lessons for the day, she would teach square dancing. And so our favorite part was square dancing. We would just work up a sweat doing square dancing. She taught us so many different square dances. And we'd get so hot, and then we'd take a break, and we'd run outside without our jackets on and it would be really cold outside, but we were really hot. So she was always yelling at us to put our jackets on because we were running outside with no jackets. That was, I don't know how my mother found her. I wish I did. There's so many things I wish I knew about my mom. And that's one reason I'm doing these, because you don't think to ask things, but I don't really know how my mother and dad met. My sister might know, but I don't know. I don't know that I ever asked her how they met. I think I did, but if she told me, I do not remember what she told me. So I don't know how they met. My mom went to Roosevelt High School. My dad went, I believe, to Fresno High. She was not quite a year older than him, I believe. I don't know, though, because his birthday's in March and hers was in September, and I thought they were both born in 22. So I don't, that would make him a little older than her, but I always thought she was older than him. But anyway, I don't know how they met. I know that the only things I can remember, somewhere I have her diary. I can't find it, and I don't know if we had a house guest once, and she may have stolen that book, because I don't know. She was weird, and I don't know. But I'm going to see if I can't find it, because it was fun to read it, because she would talk about going to see the airship, and it was a blimp, but they called it an airship, and she had gone to see the airship. I know that she was just 18 or 19 when her mother passed away. Her mother had been ill for a while before she passed away. I think I told you that. And my uncle was like 8 years younger than my mom, so she took care of him after her mother and while her mother was ill, and after her mother passed. Those are the things I know about my mom. But she was a really, really, really cool, loving lady, a great mom. Um, Loved being a grandma, just loved it. I I regret. I don't regret. It wasn't my doing, but I am sad that she never got to meet all three of her grandkids. Um, anyway, I probably have rambled on long enough for this one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really am dying to bring up about um, my mom and what a great lady she was. Oh, one more thing. Since we're in May right now, May Day, which is May 1st, back when we were kids, we talked about May Day, and my mom told us about May Day. And so on May Day, we would take paper and make a cone out of the paper. And then my mother always had flowers in the garden everywhere, so she'd let us pick flowers, and we would put flowers in these cones, and then we would take them and put them on people's doors for May Day. That was what we did for May Day. That was very cool. That was a thing my mother had told us about, And my birthday is in May, and us kids always love to go barefoot. So as soon as and in California, it's like winter. I mean, it's usually not. It's not a constant cold in winter. You get spring days in winter, but it always starts warming up in, you know, February, March. You get rain, but it's getting warmer. Beautiful spring days, and we would always say, "Can we go barefoot? Can we go barefoot?" And it was always no. It's too cold. You can't do it. And so finally, my dad made the rule, or maybe my mom. I don't know. One of them made the rule that we couldn't go barefoot until my birthday. Well, when my birthday got there, we could go barefoot. So that's the middle of May, and so we'd have to wait till the middle of the May to go. But we always looked forward to my birthday so that we could go barefoot. One year it rained on my birthday, but we went barefoot. Of course, it was a warm rain, but we thought that we were so bucking the system because, we fooled them. We got to go barefoot even though it was raining. We're crazy kids. Anyway, okay, that's long enough. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you again next week. Have a good week. Love you all. I'm glad you're enjoying these, and I'll talk to you more when I get here.